Welcome back to Cole's Farm, everybody. It's Sunday, September 17th, 12:47. The weather bug app has us at 81 degrees and feels like 86 here in Jacksonville, North Carolina at 77% humidity. The pollen rating today is medium, which is a 6.3 out of 10. The sources are ragweed, chenopod's, and grass. Some of you may notice the setup looks a little different. So what you're looking at behind me are two new hives. I inherited last night, moved them over to the bee yard, and this is going to be their very first inspection for me. Can't speak on the previous beekeeper's behalf. He said he got into them about 2 weeks ago, so we'll see what they look like. They were extremely light when we moved them over last night, so I have changed my tactic here, and now I'm using half-gallon mason jars. So up to the brim, that holds 5.5 pounds of syrup. I plan on using the deep to give them enough space. I'm going to move some frames around, probably end up removing some of the deep frames just because they probably don't have drawn wax or brood or anything. So I'm going to put 2 per hive, so that gives them 11 pounds of syrup. Check on them weekly. I imagine they're probably going to drink it very fast considering they're rather hungry. So hopefully the new location works nice for them. Plenty of goldenrod in bloom, and they are all over it. So that pretty much wraps it up. We're going to pop the tops, and this is going to be the very first look for these 2 new hives. And something else I'm doing now, just because I only have the one hive tool, I plan on ordering at least 2, maybe 3 more. I'm going to be torching it to basically kill any possible disease from my hive, and I'll be doing this for each hive just so if any of the hives do have any disease, it doesn't get spread. I guess a few other things to touch on real quick, a few bee yard changes. I raised all the hives. Well, first I'm using 4x4x8s, a lot more steady than the landscape timber I was using before. And then instead of using the eye bolts for ratchet strap tie down points, I simply used a 3 to 4 inch wood screw, screwed it in to the inside of the 4x4, and that seems to work just fine. A little more cost effective. I mean, you're talking pennies, but if you're trying to save some money depending on how large your setup is, that's something to consider. I keep them strapped down all the time, that way with any bad storms that roll through, I don't have to come out here last minute and try to worry about it. Some people just use some kind of brick or cinder block on top, but you know, by keeping them strapped down all the time, if a storm rolls through and you're not home, you don't have to worry about anything happening to your hives. Alright, so this is the first time we're looking in this hive, so TBD, not sure what we're going to find. Should probably light the smoker. I'm very scattered brain today. I'm painting, I have 3 deeps and 3 supers in the garage and a lid. I'm painting all those, and then we're going to be swapping a whole bunch out to just get a fresh coat of paint on them. So this is the first time I've ever actually got into somebody else's hive. Well, I mean, now they're mine, but, and unlike mine that's busting out with bees in the top brood chamber, you can see the absence of quite a few bees. So I have a feeling this colony is in dire straits to some health issues possibly, and lack of food. Probably a very small brood pattern, or very few frames of brood. If I had to guess right now, just by looking at the difference of the traffic from my hive and these two, I'm guessing maybe 3-4 frames of brood. So we'll see what we find. Yeah, kind of what I thought. So just a quick look through of the top brood chamber. There is like 0 wax drawn out on that box, so unless the bottom brood chamber is completely full, I'm not sure why you would put the top box on. So I'm just gonna move some frames out to make room for the half-gallon mason jars, put 2 of those in there, which is 11 pounds of sugar, once I get done everything, and then leave it so they can possibly use that sugar water to start drawing out some comb, or at least, you know, pack in the bottom brood chamber outside frames with some, well, help them create some honey for the winter. Alright, first frame of the bottom box, drawn comb, not too bad. I mean, nothing great. Second frame, a bunch of drawn comb. I'm definitely trying to spot the queen on this one. This is the side that faces the outside of the hive. Some brood, very spotted. I don't know. Try not to jump the gun, but part of me has a suspicion that things aren't going to be all that great with this. Spotty brood pattern on this side as well. Trying to see if I can see any eggs, considering there's brood. 3. The inside of frame 4, more spun larvae in various stages. It looks like the queen is going in and trying to fill every cell. I mean, if I'm finding an egg, it's definitely going to be on, I feel like it's going to be on this frame. Alright, I believe I have some eggs. So the queen's still here, however, it doesn't look like she's doing the best she could. This is only frame 4, so keep on moving. outside of frame 6. Yeah, outside of frame 6. Very spotty brood pattern. That is a weird looking bee. I don't know if you can see that one over here by itself, but that thing just, the color is just not right. I would say that thing does not look healthy. Yeah, just a very spotty brood pattern. Looks like I have a decision to make pretty soon. Might have my mentor Dave come out next week. I plan on treating him with some Apivar then anyway. Have him do a quick look at the hive, and may have to replace the queen, because the eggs that are being laid now and the bees that are going to be hatching over the next few weeks, those are the winter bees, and you definitely want them to be healthy. As of right now, I don't think this hive would make it through the winter. You got the queen right there. Hopefully you can see her heading to the left, right along the frame and the foundation, plowing through. So she's still here. Light color, which I believe that means she's fairly young. So I'm not sure what the problem is. Alright, well, we spotted the queen. And she's big too. So I don't know what's going on with this brood pattern. Maybe it's just a lack of food, so I'm gonna change that today. So she was on frame 8. I mean, this probably has the most brood out of all the frames, and this is the outside of frame 9, so contrary to popular belief, where the queen lays in the middle, this frame is on the outside, and quite a few larger cap brood, which is a drone brood, going on there. Doesn't mean much. Actually, there's quite a few on here, so just something to keep an eye on. I'm looking through the whole hive, even though I spotted the queen on frame 9, or I'm sorry, frame 8, just because this is the first time I've looked through this hive, so I'm looking for queen cups, supersedure cells, swarm cells, anything that just looks out of place. So minus the spotty brood pattern and a few questionable looking bees that were very pale, very light in color. The only reason that's odd to me is just because I have not seen that in my hive, my original hive. For instance, there's another one in the very top corner, probably hard to see, but just very light in color. I'm not used to that. So what not to do? Don't drop a frame that has a lot of bees on it. As you saw, this frame was pulling apart, so I had to fix it, and it slipped out of my hand, so things happen. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is basically just remove probably three or four frames just to make room for the half-gallon mason jars so we can start feeding this hive. spent some time with my mentor the other day and learned a few things. So I've been putting the mason jars flat on the frames, and something he had mentioned is sometimes it'll create the jar to wick quickly, and it actually drain the syrup a lot faster. So to give it some space so it creates that vacuum and the syrup is only leaving the container when the bees are actually drinking from it, just place a simple stick or 2 sticks on top of the frames and set the jar on top of that to give it that bee space, and then they can drink from it and you don't have to worry about it wicking out and, you know, spilling a lot of your syrup quickly. Alright, I'm going to stop the video. That concludes the inspection for this one. We'll see if anything improves over the next 2 weeks, but I may be making the decision to get a new queen. So I'm just going to finish this up and then I'll turn it back on when I'm in the other hive. Alright, here we go. Quick little break. Ended up feeding my original hive about 1.5 half-gallon mason jars, so that's 5.5 pounds plus probably 2, maybe 8 pounds, 7 to 8 pounds of syrup. Tuesday, I believe, Monday or Tuesday is the 16th day since the last inspection, and the 5 1-quart mason jars, so that's about the same equivalent, about 12 pounds or so. It was completely gone, so the top brood chamber looks like it's been drawn out quite nicely with comb, and of course the queen's been laying up there for quite some time now. So with all that being said, we're going to pop the top on the second new addition to Cole's farm and see how this looks. I'm not going to move too close to the camera just because I need to clean up the bee yard a little bit. I got some timber and some extra wood over here between myself and the camera, so I'm not going to hold the frames too close unless it's worthwhile, so hopefully you can see from here. And again, I got some cleaning up to do. He has the inner cover turned over so it doesn't have the bee escape. Not entirely sure why. For the winter, I believe, granted I haven't been through the winter yet, but for the winter I believe that's what you do. But otherwise I'm not too sure why you do that. Looking between the top brood chamber frames. Well, for starters, not too many bees. Second thing I'm looking at is I can see it looks like brand new foundation. I'm not sure when the top frame or the top box was placed on the hive, but I have a feeling it was put here a little early. Bees are getting curious, probably because this doesn't happen too often. Yeah, just a few bees hanging out, not much going on. Pretty much new foundation, new foundation. Not sure what that is. Maybe some pollen or something old. So top box, not a whole lot going on. Not sure what that is. I mean, looks kind of nasty, to be honest with you. So we'll reassess that later. So yeah, top box, probably not even 100 bees in there. Alright, frame number one, some draw and comb, not much going on, it's kind of normal. I can get some room to work now. Alright, here we go. Had some grass, which is new. Alright, so the outside of frame number 2, we got some weird looking cells there. I would venture to say probably in a week or two they'll be developed into a more defined queen cell. I'm not worried about it right now. Real strange looking brood pattern, or not brood pattern, but comb. Nothing too alarming or anything to be concerned with considering this is frame number 2. Frame number 3, small brood pattern on the side that faces the outside wall of the hive. The inside of the frame, a better looking brood pattern, but that's kind of used loosely. It's still very spotty. There are some nectar stores around the outside band, so that's a good thing. If I can spot the queen in this hive, I'd be pretty happy as well. Frame number 4. Got bees doing all kinds of stuff. Brood pattern still spotty, a lot of spun larvae, so they should be capped in the next few days. It looks like the queen is trying to fill in the blanks. Very small spun larva, so she's been here a few days ago. I'm definitely looking for an egg standing straight up. That would be excellent to see. So that's frame 4. Now granted, on the other hive, she was on frame number 8, I believe, 7 or 8. So more towards the left side as I look at from the back of the hive. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is frame 5. Nice drawn comb. It's almost like they were hurting for a food source to draw out the comb and start laying eggs. And 5. I will say they are relatively calm, so that's a perk. I thought they were going to be kind of agitated because they were capped up for a few hours last night. You know, now they're in a new location. Frame 6. Better brood pattern, but you know, still not the best. Looking for the queen, that would be awesome to see, or at least some eggs. Oh yeah, the queen's definitely here. As I hold it like this, directly up from that spotty brood pattern on the left, there are eggs standing straight up in practically every cell. So I'm curious to see what happens over the next few weeks if, you know, if she kind of corrects herself and starts laying eggs in all the available cells. So that was frame 6. A lot of eggs on frame 6. Alright, not too much going on here. They're just drawing out the comb. And some brood, very spotty. Doesn't make too terribly much sense, the selection of the cells to lay eggs in. Let's see if I can spot any eggs here. I don't really see any. Frame number 8 definitely has more going on than the rest of them. Spotty brood pattern, but that may be now because bees were hatching, because the cells that are not capped have spun larvae in there. So the queen's still here, she's doing her thing. I already spotted eggs on frame 6, I believe. It would just be nice and reassuring to see the queen, but you know, that doesn't always happen. And now they're in this location with the goldenrod in bloom for probably the next 45 to 60 days. Considering the amount of brood in here, they definitely have enough pollen available, which is, well, turns into bees bread and baby bee food. Frames are rather light, which is it's just different compared to mine that I've had for the last 6 months. They've finally built it up to where some of the frames definitely have some weight to it. Some capped brood, some stored pollen, which is good. I have a feeling if I see the queen, she might be on this frame, just because this has the most bees out of this whole hive. So a trick that I was taught is basically just look at the frame overall, and the queen will be plowing through the rest of the bees. It doesn't always work, but 80% of the time, it works all the time. Alright, frame number 10. This is it. There she is. How about that? Frame number 10 right there in the middle, not marked. As I hold it this way, she's heading to the left, bottom third, heading down by herself. Very bottom, right there. Now she's on the brand new foundation heading towards the corner, and she has crawled through to the other side. So I'm going to put this back. Alright, so that was relatively quick. Timer on the GoPro has it at 16 minutes. I didn't mess around with the top box too much. I could visually see that every single frame was brand new, not a lot of drawn comb. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to end up removing about 4 frames, put 2 sticks down so the jars can sit on top and the bees can create that, well, it'll create a vacuum, and as the bees drink, sugar water will get to them. looks like I miscounted and need to make another stick real quick. Alright, well, I'll wrap it up real quick. That's Cole's Farm, North Carolina for September 17th. Just inspected the 2 new hives. I'm spent right now, so I'm not going to inspect mine. My 16th day is on Tuesday, I believe. I have to look at my calendar, and the only reason I keep track that precisely is because queen cells can hatch in 16 days. So if you're trying to prevent a swarm or a super procedural, that's why I do that. So just took a look at these 2, spotted queens in both. The bottom boxes need some work. Removed 4 frames from each top box, left the remaining 6. Added 2 half-gallon jars, so 1 full gallon of sugar water, which is about 12 pounds, 11 to 12 pounds. I'll be checking back next week, next Saturday or Sunday, to see how they're doing. I anticipate them probably have drank most of it by then because they seem a little hungry. So thanks for watching. I'm out of breath, which is always a good indication to wrap it up, go inside and relax. So tune in next week for, well, midweek, Tuesday. I'll be inspecting my hive for week 23 or 24. It's been about 6 months and it's been fun. So see y'all then. Thanks. Bye.